Let's start off with how old are your shared service organisations, Barry? How old is your shared service?
We are from 1998.
1998. So you've been going for a number of years, so 15 years thereabouts. And how about you, Paul?
Different stages of maturity, different parts of the organisation started about 7 years ago, 6 years ago. In terms of a multifunctional, joined up shared services organisation, we're about 3 years old.
Okay, about 3 years old. So 3 years old, 15 years old. So just cast your minds back to when you were establishing your shared services organisation. What are the 2 or 3 kind of chief considerations that came into play for when you were selecting an actual location?
For us, I guess top of the list had to be attracting and retaining the appropriate skill set for the organisation. Costs came into play as well, and also accessibility for our clients.
And how about you? I know that there's a few more limitations,
yes,
such as the government connection, but talk us through maybe why a particular city was located over and above another one.
Well, Belfast is the largest city in Northern Ireland, is where the hub of government is. We've got Stormont Estate, where we've got a lot of government buildings actually in quite a large area, as well as buildings throughout the city itself. But yes, for us the mandate was the jobs will stay in Northern Ireland, the data will stay in Northern Ireland. But we do work heavily with the private sector. We've actually outsourced quite a bit of what we do, especially on the HR side. We've got Fujitsu and Capita delivering an end-to-end HR shared service, but again, it's based in Belfast.
Okay. So talent came up, especially in your response there, Barry. And also there's this wider conversation on talent within shared services, because although the kind of bread and butter of shared services is transaction and processing, a lot of that now is being standardised and automated, and the shared services organisations are turning their attention to slightly more value-adding functions like analytics, providing business intelligence in order to support the business a bit more in their decision-making capabilities. My question there is really around the impact that has on talent. When you're looking at locations, what would your advice be to people in the room about looking kind of the talent criteria? How much of that should be a general consideration? How much does that weigh against, say, cost and other factors that might be on the criteria list as well?
It's a factor which personally and as a business we are very passionate about, and that regardless of the support which technology can provide for you, regardless of the activity that you are doing, people are absolutely key to your organisation. They are the DNA of your organisation. And certainly for us, despite the various other activities which are now coming into play, voice is still about 95% of the activity which we do. So it's still having an excellent calibre of individual, which is most critical to our business. Ergo, when we were selecting our location, we had to ensure that the demographics would support our business objectives. And as a privately owned organisation, frankly, we could have gone anywhere that we wanted to. But Glasgow came out top in terms of location purely because of the demographics, the people who were available to us, and the skill set that they had. Having native language speakers is absolutely crucial to our organisation, and in terms of the universities and the people that they attract from overseas, that is our criteria more than any other city.
And if I could just say with you, Barry, as far as languages are concerned, so how many languages does the Shared Services Centre cover?
At the moment we cover 17 and 97 countries internationally.
So looking at the language capabilities that you found in Glasgow, so where do you think that capability was coming from? Was it mainly the university? Were there particular schools that were a good draw for you?
Well, that was actually quite an interesting learning curve for us, because in the early days, and we had our first multilingual campaigns, we naturally went out to recruit people who were fluent in Italian, people who were fluent in Danish, and actually came a bit of a cropper, if I'm being honest, because the people that we managed to find had, like myself, completed a language degree and they were fluent in Italian. However, put those people on the phones to sell in Italian or to have an intelligent business conversation with a key decision maker in Italian, it didn't work because they were not native language speakers. So we had to change our recruitment strategy completely, and to make sure then that we found people who were not just fluent but actual native language speakers within the city of Glasgow. And at that juncture, it made us realise that actually there had been a key flaw in determining our location, because that was an aspect which we hadn't looked at in the early stages. We were very, very lucky because we found that actually Glasgow as a location does have a fantastic pool of native language speakers. And to be quite honest, they appeal from people who have married a Glasgow person. I still can't get my head around why you want to leave behind some of these fantastic sunny locations on the continent to come to Glasgow, but love conquers all, and there we go. We do also have the students who bring partners with them, so you are actually able to access that native language speaking pool very, very readily.
And how about you, Paul? I mean, I'm taking it that there's only really you're looking at English speakers opening up other speakers, are you?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll speak sort of on a wider sphere because I've only been in government for the last 3 or so years, and before that I was in the private sector and ran shared services there in Northern Ireland. And I echo exactly what you said. In fact, we were having a chat outside, and we're both passionate believers in trying to keep the voice part of our businesses onshore. In terms of what we do, I think there's a strong argument for taking back office stuff offshore if necessary. But for us as well, I mean, I would say that people are absolutely crucial. The language capability, again, for us, I mean, Belfast, obviously being in Northern Ireland, part of the EU, we do get a lot of people moving into Belfast. It's an exciting, vibrant place to be. Belfast and Derry, the two major settlements, if you like, in Northern Ireland. So we do get a lot of people coming into the province to work, and it is easy to recruit multilingual people as well. We've certainly got that. We've also got the 2 big universities providing that, but you've hit the nail on the head. You need someone, and I know my other half is Italian, so I know exactly what you're saying. You need someone who understands the cultural nuances, not just how to technically speak the language in certain instances.
And if I may just, as we're talking about these cultural nuances, when you're doing that initial location search, most of us who've come from large corporate organisations, you embark on your location search armed with your blueprint, your cookie cutter approach as to this is how we build our services centre. And one of the things which we discovered with BT was what an appalling approach that actually was. And I think about landing in Sicily armed with my blueprint, and here's how we're going to do it, guys, only to discover that the way in which you recruited in Palermo, the way in which you trained in Palermo were clearly completely different to the way in which we did it in Doncaster and did it in Warrington. I mean, blindingly obvious to be saying that now, but when you have your trusted blueprint which conquers all, you don't necessarily think like that. And again, if I go back to Warrington, Doncaster, British, very, very traditional recruitment methods. And then I found myself standing on a beach on a Saturday afternoon, surrounded by people in that age bracket of 19 to 25, hundreds of them conducting a recruitment fair, and actually realising, well, part of this has to be having a very, very open mind when you're having those initial discussions with local councils of what kind of support they're prepared to give to you, because culturally they're placed to give you better advice than you can ever hope to get.
Just staying with the language one, because I think it's a really interesting aspect of shared services generally, and you've obviously gone for native speakers, and I think that probably concurs with a lot of shared services organisations in the room. How do you balance finding the person who has got the perfect attitude, and they can speak the right language, and their cultural people just fit in, and yet they have absolutely no experience, financial or accounting experience? How do you strike the balance there?
We, again, over the years have developed our own recruitment process whereby we recruit against a person profile. We look for someone who is the perfect fit for our organisation, for Belcom, and that is purely down to attitude and how do you fit within our values. Part of our interview process is looking at the 5 values and what do they mean to that person. And it was interesting in the previous interaction session, looking at one of the points that's made, just making sure that your client actually does understand your culture and how you operate, so that you're getting that great relationship from the off. That's part of it. And if we can find the right person, we can train hard skills in. That's less of a concern.
Let's just talk about local universities and working with local universities. So I'd be interested to know how your HR department or your recruitment teams are actually liaising with local universities to make sure that when students graduate, they naturally think of joining your shared services centre. How does that work?
I mean, for us, we're a very big employer in public sector employment. Northern Ireland is the biggest employer, but again, if I widen it to the wider sphere as well, certainly the big organisations that I've worked for, including my current one, we work hard with two major universities in Northern Ireland, and we work hard to influence the content of courses, not just in terms of the type of people we want, but the type of things that we want them to know when they come out. And again, just thinking of the language, language for us is actually a very small part of what we do. We have got multi-language capability. Most of what we do is English language support in all the shared services that we provide. And then you start to look at the kind of groupings, the centres of excellence around HR, finance, IT, business services, the legal side of things, and you look at the kind of support and people that we want to come into the university. So if you take even the legal side, we've got a cluster of shared services now in Northern Ireland. There's a big market for bringing lawyers into those kind of organisations because the traditional conveyancing market has disappeared on these islands, as we well know during the current recession. So we're actually able to influence the type of skills that they're coming out with. And same on the finance side, the accountancy skills that they're coming out with, working at big finance shared service centres supporting East Coast USA operations. Again, we know the kind of people that we need. We work closely with the universities and the colleges. We've got an association of colleges, all 6 big colleges in Northern Ireland come under one umbrella, and we work closely with them as well. So it's not just graduates that we require, it's the next level of as well.
Okay. Let's move on and talk about access. So I'd be curious to know where the Valcom headquarters are located. Where are they?
We are slap bang in the middle of Glasgow city centre.
So it strikes me that you're fairly close to your customer.
Yes.
Okay. Are there any other parts of the organisation that you feel like you need to be close to, but actually there's quite a distance between your customer and the shared service organisation?
Yeah, I think for us having a city centre location centre was key in 2 regards. One is in terms of accessibility for our clients. They literally fly into Glasgow Airport, they jump in a taxi, and within 10 minutes they're within our premises. It's straightforward, it's easy. Also in terms of people, having that city centre location was key to retaining people because again it's easy to get to. They have leisure facilities around about them. They can have a life without having to worry about travelling to somewhere on the outskirts of the city.
How about you, maybe talking about your current experience, but also drawing on some of the private sector experience?
Well, I often joke in Northern Ireland you can drive 100 miles in any direction and fall off the edge. So my customers do go as far as the edge in all directions. So we do support, locally at base. Technology infrastructure is actually key, and I'll explain why in a second. For us, we've got a very large wide area network stretching right across the public sector in Northern Ireland that everybody can connect into in any building, which actually allows us to place customers and support staff in any place, any location. But the bigger thing than that for us is when we're looking at shared services on a wider sphere and pulling in companies from outside of Northern Ireland, we've got something called Project Kelvin, which is a big, thick, fat pipe running from Northern Ireland to the east coast of the States. We've got a very, very good access there. So we're actually actively seeking that kind of organisation to come in and use the infrastructure. We've also got, I think, the only part of the UK with 100% broadband coverage. So for us, having that technology infrastructure gives us the access capability, not just locally, but to be able to bring people from the outside. We've got the airports and things like that as well. We live on things when we need to go outside, but we're one step further removed. But it's an easy place to get to with two major airports. One is 5 minutes from the city centre, one is about 30 minutes away, and we're very well connected.
I suppose it's not so much a consideration in your examples, but sometimes we hear stories about a location being selected and it's a greenfield site that's being developed there, and then the penny drops that actually the senior management that come over from the US actually have to change not just once, but twice to get from the head office in the States, for example, to the shared services centre over in a particular, say, tier 2 city or tier 3 city in a particular country. And that second change, those two changes on the flight, can add huge amounts of time to travel. And sometimes just in itself that could be a reason not to select that particular location.
Well, if I pick up first, you can fly direct from the East Coast of the States into Belfast, so we've got direct accessibility, but it probably brings in another factor, which is cost. Now, I'd always be very careful in the cost argument. We were chatting about this one earlier. You know, trying to decide where to locate your shared service organisation isn't just about cost, but if you start to factor cost in, then the cost of an extra flight if it's necessary, start comparing that with, I mean, our property prices are about £12.50 per square foot, and London prices are about £55 to £60 per square foot. Glasgow's £27 per square foot, sorry. So, you know, you start factoring some of the cost factors, and then you look at the cost of salaries as well. We do pay less in Northern Ireland, so we actually have a very competitive cost base. So I'll take the other argument, paying for an extra flight is actually a very, very small add-on in comparison to the total cost of the package.
So let's just talk a little bit about the overall alignment of the location costs. I mean, your head office is based in Glasgow. What about particular growth of the company? How does your Glasgow Shared Services organisation support that geographically?
Glasgow Library is perfectly placed for European, for Belcom or any other organisations looking to use our services to grow. There is a plethora of property sitting there available and some less than £24.50 a square foot, I have to say. There's excellent support there from Scottish Development International and Scottish Enterprise in terms of providing funding to organisations wanting to come to the city to effect that growth. So perfectly placed.
And how about you, Paul? Maybe again drawing on your private sector experience.
Yeah. We joke with each other. I think we would love to. We both believe it's the regions of the UK that really provide the capability for shared services rather than putting things into the southeast, because you might have infrastructure, you might have transport, and all the rest of it. But when you widen the whole thing, I think looking out to the regions as to where you could put these things. I mean, for us, growth is today within our existing public sector base, so it's less of an issue for us. We're looking more to add services into the existing customers that we have, and to touch the other parts of the public sector. Again, I know the private sector shared services organisations that exist in Northern Ireland are actively adding on additional customer lines and service lines. So we're all looking for the economies of scale you can get. Once you've established wherever you've established, it's then growing from there and adding on the extra parts of the relocation.
What about the risks that bubbled up as a part of the evaluation of looking at the cities that you're in? What were the risks that needed to have serious addressing?
Well, I think one of the reasons why Glasgow was so attractive for us was that it presented minimal risk. When we looked at the demographics, the pool of people in excess of 1 million that we could penetrate to recruit the people that we needed, tick the box. In terms of the operational cost base, it ticked the box. In terms of the local support that we could access, it ticked the box. We actually couldn't find any reason not to select that city at a location. The only downside which we had is probably, I guess, the same as many locations have. You do have to make, if you're coming from Europe or if you're coming from the States, a clean change. But you know what? In the grand scheme of things, and talking to our clients, that's nothing. It really is nothing, because when you put it in the context of the kind of customer service levels, customer satisfaction levels that you can achieve by having the correct skill set in place, this is a no-brainer.
Yeah, again, it's when we were laughing with my colleagues from Invest NI, what natural disasters that we have in Northern Ireland. St. Patrick allegedly chased the snakes out, so we don't have snakes, we don't have earthquakes. The biggest natural disaster is probably people drunk on St. Patrick's Day evening. No, it's a bit of fun. I think from a risk perspective, really touched on a couple of them. Looking at connectivity, technology, capabilities, things like that. Rapid growth, rapid recruitment. If someone was to come in and say, say we need to have 500 employees, how quickly can you actually get those people recruited into the job that's a key risk factor. I mean, from a political perspective, people say Northern Ireland, what's the situation like there? You still see things on the news, and what we would say is come and see us, because what you see is like any news programme that focuses on one tiny microcosm of a much bigger province. It's actually a very peaceful place to live, to work, and the things that you see at the moment about flags are actually a very minor irritation for a very small number of people. So we've actually got great political stability. We've got a devolved government that is actually working very effectively. And in fact, our first and deputy first minister just returned from South America and North America on a big economic drive to try to bring organisations back into Northern Ireland. So we do believe we've covered the risks in terms of stability.
It's interesting point about the risk in terms of how quickly can you ramp up, because I guess for all organisations that we work for, that just never goes away. But in thinking back to the previous presentation where I quote went up on the slide and it said, make sure you're talking to your clients and make sure they understand that we might be experts in what we do, but we're not David Copperfield. And I actually thought that was a brilliant statement. And it comes down to, in those early stages, having those intelligent conversations with your clients and saying, well, okay, you want 500 people, you want 1,000 people, absolutely achievable, but it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen overnight. And actually, it doesn't matter where you go, that same principle applies.
What about the risk of churn? Because when a shared services city becomes very popular, and you end up with, say, 15 or so shared services organisations, then churn can be a big worry. Because there could be a shared service organisation down the road that could just offer 5% more as a salary, and that can be very attractive. So, first of all, question for you: what are your churn rates? And second of all, of that rate, how much would you attribute to maybe losing your staff to other shared service organisations that are basically parallels?
Our attrition rate sits consistently at under 5%. The people that we lose because we have developed them over a period of time and are unable to offer them the promoted position that they would like at that point in their career. So they move on to bigger and better things, and we're supportive of that. The reason that our attrition levels are so low is purely down to the culture that we have within our organisation. That's what our unique selling point is, both to our clients and to people who are joining our organisation.
Yeah, we've got, again, it's about 3 or 4% of people join government for different reasons. But again, if I go to sort of previous lives, I would have seen higher attrition in the called the pure contact centre space, where one organisation I work for went up to 10%, which is still extremely low for that sector, it has to be said. I think our unemployment rate in Northern Ireland is just over 8% at the moment, so attrition is not particularly an issue. We've got enough people out there to fill the posts.
Let's, again, maybe not specifically talking about the cities that you're located in, but just kind of a wider view on the subject of cost. So, looking at the balance between going to a low-cost location versus getting the right talent, and being able to attract that right talent because of the right wages. What are your general views on that? Maybe we'll start with you, Paul.
Well, again, let me go to the previous ideas. We used to head up Steria in Ireland. Steria is a French IT services company. We bought Zansa, and Zansa, the reason we bought them at that stage was because of the Indian presence they had. So a lot of experience in taking work to working with India, extremely high quality, high capability. The attrition, the retention rates, the labour arbitrage, the very things that we just talked about. You saw a massive spike in all of those. We saw 25% rises per year in terms of staff generally in the IT services space, certainly. So cost has to be a key thing, but cost stability, being able to predict your costs moving forward is really more important than your actual cost in any 1 year.
I'm passionate about this, there's no two ways about it. Cost is important, but it's not the be-all and the end-all. If I base my business purely around the cost base, we wouldn't exist. Our clients buy into us because of the levels of satisfaction and the levels of service that we deliver. And if we place that into the lowest available cost-based location, we wouldn't be able to meet those SLAs. So it's about making sure that cost is a key component of your business strategy, but it is only a key component.
Yeah, one other thing, Hackett have got a very good way of describing it. I mean, when they did their benchmarking, they talked about the effectiveness and efficiency. And world class is upper decile in both. So you've got the two dimensions in this. You've got the highly qualified, good way of doing things alongside managing the cost base. You can't have one without the other. Agreed.
Just want to touch on that point that you were talking about earlier, Paul, and that was the predictability and being able to forecast cost increase within a particular location that you're in, and that in some geographies locally are overheating and prices are going up by multiples, considerable multiples now. So maybe looking at Northern Ireland, Belfast, what are the kind of increases year on year that you potentially look at?
Well, I mean, it's the same as you would see throughout the rest of the UK. We're certainly not overheating. We are in a recession, which is actually suppressing the price rises of unemployed people. Certainly in the public sector, we're just announced 1% per year in the budget yesterday. So we've been very, very low increases. In the private sector, again, very often 0% or cuts in terms of rates. So there is little wage inflation going on at this point, and I suspect there was rules to say on that.
Yeah, we're absolutely the same. Up in Scotland, you can be very, very smart about your recruitment right now. You can be thinking of bringing on board graduates, you can be thinking of bringing on board modern apprentices, where in the past people might have been a little bit more reticent about bringing on the likes of job seekers. Well, the market has changed. If you look at the number of people who've made redundant over the past 2 to 3 years, there are fantastic candidates sitting within that market right now whom you can bring on board with having 50% of the wage cost funded for a period of time. So yeah, we're exactly the same. If anything, we're seeing wage costs dropping rather than increasing.
Did either of you see any tax attraction moving to the location that you're choosing?
To say no in a word? No, there's no particular benefit in Glasgow in that respect.
How about you?
No, we're the same. We're the UK tax rates cut the SP to 20%. So from a European perspective, that's UK lowest in the top 20 countries. So,
just on infrastructure, Paul, you were talking about the fact that there's 100% broadband coverage where you are. Any other infrastructural elements that had a serious kind of attraction for you?
No, again, the truth was in the joke earlier. We're 100 miles in any direction, so we've got ease of access to any part of the province for us, but it's not an issue.
Okay, and just generally a consideration factor for people who are looking at selecting a location, what are the top 2 or 3 infrastructure things that you really need to look at?
Broadband, power.
Yes. Yeah, those 2 and transport, those would be the 3.
And how much does real estate for your staff, availability of houses in the area, and their transportation routes in, how much does that come into consideration?
We've got a very suppressed property market at the moment. Joe with Juliana earlier, how much an apartment costs in London you can rent a mansion for back in Northern Ireland. I kid you not. I mean, certainly £250,000 would buy you a 4 or 5 bedroom detached house with an acre of drive around it at the moment. So yes, it's a good place to buy property at this point in time.
I think that really draws us to the end, but my final question really is, obviously you worked with your investment agencies to find the location. What is it that you look to partner with on? I mean, to what degree are they selling to you? To what degree are they giving you really balanced information that is actually incredibly helpful for you to make an informed decision?
I think that depends largely on your attitude going into the relationship that you have with them. Certainly for us, if you're prepared to be completely open, honest, transparent about what you're looking to achieve, how you're looking to achieve it, and the time frames and budget that you have, for us, our development agency is absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, key. I mean, that doesn't affect the job that I'm currently in because we're government. I mean, again, going back to previous situations, I work very closely with Invest and I as in terms of trying to get money out of them, in terms of trying to partner with them, and now I feel like putting something back in talk to the guys, talk to Ryan and Julian on the desk. I mean, really, it is all about the kind of relationship you can develop, understand what's possible, and at least come and explore the kind of capabilities that we do have, and very, very professional way of introducing you to the kind of capabilities that we have in Northern Ireland, and you'd be most welcome to the desk.
Paul and Vera, thank you very much indeed. Let's give them a round of applause. So, questions from the floor, please. I can't be doing all the questions.
Thanks, Sarah. Just one question on talent management. My company is looking for a location for its shared service centre. One of the biggest factors, cost aside, but equally up there, is an attractive location where the talent from the business is willing to relocate to. Is it something that you're hearing more of from people talking currently, or are we unique in the area?
I can't say that it's something that we've come across at all at this juncture. Relocation to be anything like that hasn't come into the mix again.
Sorry for us, as we said, hasn't become an issue for us.
Any further questions?
Hi there, Scott Laxton, Baker Hughes. Just one question. You talked about upscaling and growing the actual size and capacity of your shared service. What about downsizing when returns in terms of labour arbitrage and reducing the size of school? Can you talk to that a little bit about Scotland and Ireland?
I think it's a really good question, and it's certainly something which 3 years ago we experienced at the start of the recession quite heavily. Fortunately, we were relatively well geared up for it. Our contracts were structured in such a way that there's people that we were able to manage it. We were also lucky in that we had excellent relationships with employers, other employers locally, where we were able to negotiate new employment for some of the people that we were losing. But I don't think there's any getting away from the fact that when it happens, it's tough, and I think even with the best laid plans in place, it is going to be a traumatic period for you. However, with what we've been experiencing over the past 6 months, it's not something that we are expecting to experience again in certainly the short to medium term. We're seeing just the opposite in terms of our forecasting, and everything right now is pointing towards growth.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like using the term downsizing, but I prefer to use the term benchmarking and understanding what my cost is in comparison with where I think it should be. I'm constantly applying pressure right throughout the organisation to make sure we're reducing the costs. For me, success is seeing the cost going down year on year, and that's not just the cost of delivering the service in terms of people, but just over the last 3 months, just by consolidating people across buildings. So I have 950 staff across a number of different buildings. Just by doing some consolidation there, I'm generating £1.4 million per year saving on that building. So it's not just looking at downsizing, like reducing the heads on things, it's actually being smarter at the way you use your real estate as well. So we're going to take the whole thing into equation.
Any further questions? And do take Paul and Barry's offer up on speaking to Invest Northern Ireland and Scottish Enterprise if you do want to find out more about their location. So thank you very much.